Hello there, all my fellow mathletes. We're taking a look at question 25 on the 2006 Gauss paper, the grade 8 Gauss. I know there is the grade 7, but no, we're doing the grade 8. And question 15 says the letter F is reflected in line 1. So here's line 1, commonly known as the x-axis, although you likely won't know that until maybe grade 9 if you follow the sort of education that I went through. The image is then reflected in line 2, which people might recognize as the y-axis, but you don't have to know that stuff. We got line 1, we got line 2. Let's not complicate things. The shape that results is, and then we have this F twisted and flipped and so forth as our options. Okay. So, to handle this question, we might, well, first I need a little more space. I could probably squeeze it down here, but let's do this question justice. So we have line 1, line 2, we have a nice big fancy F up here. Okay? To handle this question, we could just proceed by following the procedure. Okay? We flip in line 1 and we reflect it in line 1. Now, whether or not you are able to sort of mentally be able to flip this F is something that you need to build up. And I'll talk about how we might practice that sort of a thing. It's a spatial awareness or spatial reasoning thing. But we reflect F in the line 1, and then it is reflected again in line 2. So there we go. And that's it. That's all we needed to do. So this is going to be our final answer. It sort of looks like an F that's been rotated by 180 degrees. So we're going to go with D. Now, this question, at least the way I did it, relied wholly on, can I mentally flip this F? Can I mentally reflect it? And rotating is a good thing to do. This type of question comes up every now and again. It's not on every year. It's not even on every other year. But the sort of orientation of certain figures and shapes is sometimes helpful to be able to do in your head. So how do we get good at this? Okay, that's something we might ask ourselves. You know, if you're not interested in that, that's okay. I'll see you guys in the next video for question 16. But stick around if you want to talk about how do we get good at reflecting these F's and things like that. Okay. So there's sort of two ways I would recommend you go about practicing it. First is, and this can all be done on your own, or you can get a friend or a family member to help you. But you can do things like set up these points and give yourself a list of instructions. Reflect in line 1. Then reflect in line 2. I mean, those are the instructions we were given in this. But you can also get other things as you're getting more advanced. Rotate around this point, that sort of stuff. I'm not going to get too advanced. I'm just going to tell you how you might try to get better. So maybe instead of an F, we're going to have this upside down triangle. Okay. How do we learn how to reflect it in line 1? Well, probably the most basic thing we can do is we could just take a look at some of the main features. So look at these corners. If I know where the corners end up, I just draw my triangle in between them. So now I ask myself, if line L is the one I'm reflecting in, I will usually connect up my interesting points so they make right angles. Okay. And now, whatever's going to happen, I'm going to continue on these lines. And my points are still going to be on these lines. They're just right angles. They're just going through one at right angles. But where on this middle line does this point get reflected to? And now we sort of have to reason, well, look at the distances. This middle point is much closer than the other two. So now I don't have to get a perfectly exact, I mean, if you want to, get your ruler out and absolutely measure these things exactly. But the point is, the middle one should have a shorter distance than the other two. And that gives me a rough idea as to where to place these. And as soon as I know where the corners are, well, there goes my triangle. And suddenly I have it reflected. Okay. If I wanted to then reflect in line 2, draw a right angle going through the interesting features. So both of these points happen to run through the same place. And then we get a perpendicular line from our other point. Okay? And so now the middle dot is going to end up somewhere on this top line. But where? Once we have our right angles, we then start talking about distances. Okay? And we have distances, I'm going to label them A, B, and C. A is clearly less than B. We can inspect that visually, which is less than C. On the flip side, we're going to want to go A, B, so a little further, and then C is going to be even further. And, you know, you can be a little lopsided, but the general idea is, hey, we've reflected our triangle. Okay? And you can do the same sort of thing with F and other interesting shapes. Identify key features. Does it have to always be the corners? Not at all. The corners are great. Parallel or perpendicular sides are great things to keep track of. And, you know, you can practice rotations and things like that. Now, another way you can practice this is getting a handy-dandy piece of paper. Okay? And you can get a piece of paper. We can draw our lines on it. Okay? If you think you've put the triangle, you flipped the triangle, reflected it the right way, or think you've reflected the F, you can actually draw it, and reflection just sort of flips it. Now, with a dark enough marker, you can actually see through that my reflected F matches up with this one. Or, if you're really handy, and I wish I prepared for these things more, you can actually get a mirror and hold it up and take a look inside the mirror. How does F actually get reflected? What does it actually look like? And you'll see it gets flipped. So being able to draw on actual paper and flip it or rotate it can help you practice, because you can real life verify it by actually doing the rotation, doing the flip, that sort of stuff. See whether or not you're actually making the right connections. Okay? As I say, it's spatial awareness. It's something we slowly build up over time. Seek out these questions. As I say, you can make them up. Give yourself a weird shape and a series of lines and start reflecting. Okay? Give yourself some challenges. Anyway, so that's how we handle this question and how we might practice our reflection if we're bad at it. So as I said earlier, our next question is going to be question 16. And if you're still watching, I'll see you guys for that one next time.